team representatives in L.A. today meeting with LeBron James representatives, although LeBron not expected to attend the meeting. This comes about 12 hours after LeBron spoke reportedly on the phone with Kobe Altman, the general manager of the Cleveland Cavaliers. We're going to turn to the phone now and get to Keith Pompey, who is a Philadelphia 76ers beat writer. Keith, so tell us, what are you hearing in terms of what the Sixers' expectations are? Is this just, hey, can we have a meeting? Or is there some substance to the Sixers actually believing they can convince LeBron James to come east?
Yeah, there's a lot of substance with the Sixers believing, that they can convince LeBron to come east. The thing about it is, you have the ownership group, and this is like the first time that they actually flew to the West Coast to, during free agency, to lure guys. So they're really serious about that. But the fact that, Paul George did not go to L.A., the fact that, if you look at the Sixers, they have Ben Simmons and they have Joel Embiid. The Sixers are talking about Brett Brown. They're talking about the fact that if LeBron comes here, there is a pretty good chance that they have to beat the Boston Celtics, but there's a pretty good chance that he can go to his 9th consecutive NBA Finals. So they think that all those things right there is enticing LeBron. And according to the sources that I spoke to, there is some interest. Now, the holdup is, let's just say if Kawhi Leonard goes to the Lakers, then the Sixers kind of know that if Kawhi goes to the Lakers, things could get a little sketchy for them. But right now, they feel as if that with nobody knowing what Kawhi is going to do, with Paul George staying at OKC, that they have a great chance of getting LeBron James.
All right, Keith, I want to ask you about Kawhi in a moment, but first, take you back to last night. I know you saw the tweet from Joel Embiid where he tweeted out last night, the Lakers are forever, in caps, going to be Kobe's and Magic's team. Process that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're processing that tweet as a shot at LeBron James because maybe Embiid felt like at that point the Sixers were off the table for LeBron?
You know what? You can say that, or you can also have, and you can take it as if, Joel Embiid was like, look, LeBron, this is a message for you. You can go to L.A., and it's always going to be Kobe's and Magic's team. And if, the thing about it is there are some people who can argue that. Like, if you go to L.A., you're just going to be another one of the great players who played for that organization. Now, of course, Embiid could have meant it that way, but I'm pretty sure he's going to say, hey, that was a message just to him, to LeBron. And I think last night, if you listen to the reports, and I think a lot of people did think that LeBron was going to head to L.A., but I also think a lot of people blew stuff out of proportion when we know that he has 2 homes in Los Angeles and they're flying from their vacation spot to L.A. Everybody assumed that he's going to meet with the Lakers, but he has 2 houses in Los Angeles.
All right. Well, there's other reports out here, as I said, want to get to Kawhi Leonard, and certainly the Sixers have been rumored, if nothing else, because of the relationship that Brett Brown, who's now overseeing the basketball operations department, has with Greg Popovich and R.C. Buford. But the reports today are that the Sixers are unwilling to start a conversation with Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, or Markelle Fultz. You can certainly understand Embiid and Simmons, but do you buy that if the Sixers have the opportunity to get LeBron by way of free agency and then trade for Kawhi Leonard, they wouldn't want to give up a guy like Markelle Fultz?
That's I kind of don't. I can't really buy that, but this is what I really think. I tend to think that right now that the Sixers can't trade Markelle Fultz for value, or the value they would get for the first overall pick. And they know that, and sometimes you come out and you say, hey, he's off the table, because you're not going to get value for him. And secondly, if you can't get value for him, and we have a guy right now who has the gifts, who's dealing with confidence, you don't want to keep dangling him out there because you feel as if that you're going to damage his confidence, worse than what it is right now. But, it's one of those things where once Markelle Fultz was not going to play in the summer league, you knew they weren't going to trade him because, Billy can attest to this. There's no general manager in their right mind is going to trade for a guy with the yips, and you're not going to see him shoot the ball in the game. So I think that's part of the reason why Markelle Fultz is off the table.
Hey, Keith, this is Billy King here. I just want to talk about, they lose Bellinelli. He signs in San Antonio. You lose Ilyasova to Milwaukee. I know you're waiting on LeBron and trying to get Kawhi. What's up, like J.J. Redick? How are they going to, if they don't get these guys, how are they going to continue that team to keep the run going?
Excuse me, and that's a good thing. Like, I think the thing with J.J., J.J. really wants to come back here, but, he's also realizes that he's kind of sort of like the plan B, so to speak. So it's like a waiting see. But the longer that it takes for this thing to process or to happen, a decision to be made, if I'm JJ, I'm thinking like, whoa, I think I better go somewhere else. So I think the Sixers are going out there today, and I don't know if LeBron's going to make this decision today, but it's one of those things that I think that you want to at least come out of there with a good feeling of if it's going to happen or not. Because, as you said, JJ was a good fit for the team, not just because he was from Duke, but he was a good fit from the team. And I believe that, it's one of those things where, they just have to hurry up and make sure that they can get him if they can't get LeBron.
All right, Keith Pompey, Philly.com, appreciate it. Sixers beat writer here. And now we watch and see what happens, guys, with what this meeting happens with LeBron James representatives. And we'll see who else gets involved in the mix here. But you bring up a good point here, Billy, about, you just look at the Sixers roster, and if you use the assumption that LeBron James is going west, the Sixers should have a realistic shot of winning the East this upcoming season. But now you lose those two key bench guys. You may lose Redick. If you swing and miss on LeBron and you can't trade for Kawhi, how good can this team be?
Well, you still have two big building pieces in Simmons and Embiid, but the problem during the season, they lacked shooting. Their shooting was very inconsistent. By bringing in Ilyasova, by bringing in Bellinelli, it gave them some shooting and allowed them to space the floor and gave Embiid space and gave Simmons space to get them through. That, to me, is that they've got to have a plan B if LeBron drags it out. Like, all right, we can't wait and try to get some of these guys because they have to have shooting if you have Simmons and Embiid. And that's the big dilemma that they're going to be faced with right now is what do you do with these guys?
Well, let's address the elephant in the room here, right? And that is, a couple of weeks before the draft, there was a massive change within the organization. And not to say that Brett Brown hasn't been around and not to say Brett Brown can't do the job, but he's a first-time GM here now faced with, okay, go out and get LeBron and Kawhi Leonard, and if you don't, we still need to get to the Eastern Conference Finals, Brendan.
Yeah, it's a very tough situation for Brett Brown to be in because he doesn't really have experience as being a GM, and now you're forced to try to negotiate deals and recruit guys and get things done. And it's being a GM is a lot different than being a coach. And so to ask somebody to do that in this basketball climate right now with all this hype surrounding LeBron and Kawhi and free agency, I think they put Brett Brown in a very tough spot. So, unfortunately, though, that's where they are. They're going to have to find a way to get it done. And somehow, some way, they're going to have to recoup some shooting because they did lose a lot of shooting and try to put the best players on the floor to surround Embiid and Simmons.
Well, let me go, if I can, go back to last year's playoffs. And it's dealing with the shooting that they've lost. And if Redick should happen to go also. You remember they played Miami in the game without Embiid?
Mm-hmm.
And
they won.
They were coming off screens at 100 miles an hour. Brett Brown runs very good stuff offensively. And without Embiid, they were like 150 miles an hour instead of just being 100 miles an hour like normally are coming off him. Miami couldn't deal with him defensively. They couldn't get into him because they ran their stuff so hard. They ran it so good, and they had the shooting. They wound up winning the game. But when Embiid comes back, he gets X number of touches a night in the post. It changes them and makes them a different team offensively when you have them. I'm not saying that you shouldn't want to have Embiid. No. I'm just saying that the shooting part of it, losing those two guys that they've lost, and if it ever wound up being Redick goes somewhere else, that's a huge dent, in their offense and their style of play.
And they could also potentially lose Amir Johnson, who didn't get very many minutes or very many important minutes, but you lose Redick, Ilyasova, Bellinelli. We talked about the culture in Philadelphia with all those veterans. It could all of a sudden be a very young team, not just with superstars.
And real quick on the front office thing, the one thing why they put Brett in that position, he's a salesman. He's able to sell J.J. Redick, so they're using him as the face. But he does have a good staff behind him that's giving him advice and things like that. But the big thing they're using Brett is, and that's the unfortunate thing, the meeting in L.A. is not going to be with LeBron. That's where Brett is at his best. It's going to be with Rich Paul. So Rich Paul's going to be able to sell what Brett sells him to LeBron.
All right, well, let's talk about the math on how Philadelphia can make all this work. And again, trying to hit the home run. I think Philadelphia, if you give them some truth serum, Eric Pincus, they'd love to sign LeBron and trade for Kawhi Leonard. But if they can't do both or either, then what?
Oh, well, if they can't do both or either, maybe you're keeping J.J. Redick. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, this team was really, really good this last year. If LeBron is in the West, now they're that much better. And I think they sort of front-loaded J.J. They paid him a lot of money last year, $23 million. Maybe if they get him at a cheaper price now, they can get someone else. But really, Billy, to your point, I mean, they've got Ned Cohen, Mark Eversley, and I know I'm forgetting some of the names. They've got a good front office. Brett Brown is a great salesman. I cover out of Los Angeles, and I've seen him at Staples Center, and this is when the Sixers were just terrible. And I'd listen to his pregame talk with the media, and he'd pump me up about the Sixers so much, I'd be like, man, the Sixers are going to be great. And then I'd walk away. About 10 feet later, I'm like, oh, yeah, they're really terrible. But for those few minutes, I was like, man, that guy, he's just so intense, positive, really a good figure for that team, but there's a lot of guys behind him who understand the salary cap, understand the rules and the strategy. So it's not all on him to make this happen. But look, they can go and they have to clear money to get LeBron if they want LeBron. If they want to trade for Kawhi Leonard, they need to basically clear $29 million in trade to be able to get him and LeBron in that range. So you're talking about Jared Bayless probably has to be a filler piece, unless they're including Covington. Covington could be an important piece. Dario Saric. Fultz makes a lot of money. He would help the numbers, but I think that's probably the sticking point. If you're the Sixers, you probably want to not give away pieces that you value. So the Spurs have to decide, is there nothing better, or do we fight and we claw and make sure we get everything? What are the Lakers offering? Who else is offering what? So there's a little bit of a leverage play here as far as including Fultz, but they can make this money work to do both. It's not very complicated. In some ways, it's a little easier than the Lakers because the Lakers have Luol Deng, who he has 2 years and a lot of money, whereas Jared Bayless is only $9 million, real easy to get rid of if you need to. So if LeBron says yes and the Spurs said yes, this is a very doable thing.
All right, Eric Pincus, our capologist.
I love how Eric said it's only $9 million. It's only $8 million. It's not that
I'd love to have these problems, right? It's like,
yeah, it's only 9.
That's what happens when you talk to a guy who stares at numbers all day, right?
$9 million.
Well, from the Sixers to a team that may have the most asset value in the entire NBA, we'll talk about the Boston Celtics. They made one very big move already. We come back and discuss what may be next for Danny Ainge and the Celtics. Free agent fever continues.